Oh, hey, Dad, what's up?
Oh, shut up, Gen Z.
Dad, you okay?
The Gen X rise is upon us, and you better get ready for what's coming.
Dad, what's going on?
You Gen Z think you're so tough trying to cancel Eminem. Well, I'll have you know, when I was a kid, I used to gnaw on bricks.
Oh, okay, yeah, you've been on TikTok too much, Dad. I'm gonna see you later.
The Gen X rise is coming. The Gen X rise.
No, because who activated Gen X? Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. Today, we are back and we are talking about Gen X. Surprisingly, we actually have not done that yet on this channel. Usually we talk about Gen Z, sometimes we talk about millennials, Gen Alpha, but the one generation that we have not really addressed is Gen X. And that's mostly because for the most part, there's been nothing to really talk about. Like I feel like Gen Z and Gen X don't really overlap too often. Well, for a lot of us, Gen X happens to be our parents' generation. So usually there's nothing much to really say. And if we're talking about the unks and aunties of the world, usually we're talking about the boomers because we equate anyone old with being a boomer because Gen X has kind of been silent, or at least I haven't heard of any real major beef between Gen X and Gen Z prior to what's been going on right now. And first and foremost, I want to give a disclaimer. According to my demographics, 10% of my viewers, about 10% of y'all, are actually a part of Gen X. And to you all, I love you deeply. And I mean none of what I'm about to say to you specifically. And if anything, I just have some questions. But to everybody else, what the is going on? So if you have not been in these chronically online circles or have been lucky enough to escape the generational discourse, Gen X for some reason has been activated lately to start this seemingly one-sided beef with Gen Z for some reason. And a lot of chronically online Gen Xers, which I know is a crazy statement to make, have been calling this movement the Gen X rise. Now you may be asking, Remy, what is this Gen X rise? What does this consist of? Well, mostly something that looks like this.
Gen X rise. Gen X rise.
Yeah, pretty much a bunch of upper 40 to 50-year-olds putting on a face filter being like,
Gen X will rise again. Gen Z, watch out.
and to that I say, watch out for what? What we do? Why we in it? To quote an icon in pop culture history, what I do? Like, I'm just genuinely confused why we're in a beef with Gen X. Or let me rephrase, why Gen X is in a beef with us. And I'm sure you may be too. So I've done a little research and let's talk about where this Gen X rise situation may have originated from. So allegedly this all started from, and I kid you not, one Gen Zer making a video on TikTok talking about how Gen X is the worst generation.
I think we can all agree that if we're generalizing, Gen X is the worst generation because they're like boomers, basically, but then they have like all of the annoying traits of millennials, like avocado toast and I can't adult today. So they're the worst.
And I will be impartial here. Seeing that, it does make sense because like that was like kind of a shot at Gen Xers. It was kind of a unwarranted shot at Gen Xers because, you know, Gen Xers were minding their business mostly besides, you know, causing havoc to public service workers. But my thing is that video was posted back in May. It's July. And Gen Xers are still making videos talking about this one-sided beef against Gen Z. And personally, I just think it's so funny because, you know, when it comes to online beef, why is a 50-plus-year-old beefing with someone in their late teens to early 20s? Like, it's giving old-timey YouTube beef when the OGs would be coming for the new girlies. And I want to say this right now, I'm not defending any of the people I'm about to name. This might be too chronically online, but it was giving like when Freely the Banana Girl was beefing with Tana Mojo for some reason back in like 2016. Like, why is someone of a drastically different age bracket coming for people of a drastically younger age bracket? Like, y'all should have nothing in common for real. And that's absolutely no shade. I just think the dynamics of it all are very funny. The optics of it are very funny because one aspect to this beef that you've never heard of is that because Gen X happens to be of a certain age, and this is not to Gen X's fault at all, the videos that happen to be made in response, whether dead serious or a little satirical, come across largely cringy because, to be frank, they are Gen X and they did not grow up with social media, and TikTok for sure is not natively their platform. So seeing all these videos of Gen Xers use these intense filters unironically to try and spook and scare Gen Z and to try and attack is just funny because you can see the disconnect. Like, personally, I feel like the platform for Gen Xers and for boomers is Facebook. Like if this beef was on Facebook and started natively and was held natively on Facebook, it would be a different story. Like Gen X objectively controls that platform. But to bring this beef and this discourse over to TikTok, it's kind of a setup because for one, nothing is serious over there. And for two, that is natively Gen Z's platform. And one thing about us, we are going to meme the out of any and everything, and that's exactly what we've done. But before we unpack Gen Z's actual response to all of this, I think that it's time that we talk about how we can unpack fresh groceries delivered right to our door with this video sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a home delivery meal kit service that gives you everything you need to make restaurant quality meals at home. And you can partake in HelloFresh's biggest menu yet, with over 50 recipes and even more market items to support your lifestyle. Plus, when you sign up for HelloFresh, you get free appetizers for life. And for all of my apps people, if you've been meaning to step into your cooking bag but have been a little bit too nervous to get started because you don't have any good recipes or don't really know what ingredients you're supposed to get to make a good nutritious meal, HelloFresh offers foolproof step-by-step recipes for a joyful cooking experience and a stress-free summer. Plus, HelloFresh cuts back on the time spent in the kitchen, with meals ready in about 30 minutes or less. Now, I've been using HelloFresh recently, and honestly, I've been kind of nervous for like these sort of meal kit services because I was afraid that even though I'd have the recipes and the ingredients, I'd still find a way to mess it up because that's usually how I work with recipes. But that genuinely was not the case with HelloFresh. They really give you every single ingredient that you need in a very step-by-step with pictures recipe to show you exactly what you need, what everything should look like, and how to make your meal delicious. So I made this sweet chili chicken bowl, which was one, easy to prep, and two, even easier to eat because it was too good. Now, if you want to get started with HelloFresh as well as supporting this channel to help me create more content for you, you can click the link in my description or use my code EMERGENCYJEWEL10 and get 10 free meals plus free appetizers for life. One appetizer per box while the subscription is active in the US only. Outside of the US, the local discount will apply. Once again, your support really helps keep this channel running and helps me produce more content for you. So be sure to go over and check out HelloFresh to help contribute. Thanks HelloFresh so much for sponsoring this video. Let's get into how Gen Z has responded to the Gen X rise. So Gen Z's response to the Gen X rise. I'll give you a second to ponder how you think we've responded to this. Okay, that's enough. It's been majorly confusion and also, of course, humor.
All day I've been trying to figure out why Gen X is activated. Why are they, what happened? And then the millennials and the Gen Z are like, oh, they're so cringy. But why are they activated in the first place? What happened?
For those Gen Zers out there that don't understand the Gen X rise, let me explain it. Run.
You guys.
Which all these have been really funny as a Gen Zer myself, because this whole beef is just genuinely unserious. Like, why? There are so many things going on in the world right now. Why is Gen X beefing with Gen Z? But jokes aside, I've been meaning to talk about this. So let's talk about some of the differences in opinion generally between Gen X and Gen Z. Now, there's been this one creator who's been very vocal about expressing what exactly the Gen X rise is and what it's about. So I figured we watch a little bit of it to understand together what this Gen X rise is all about, and then give some discourse and some thoughts while we go through.
For those Gen Zers out there that don't understand the Gen X rise, let me explain it. The Gen X folks are the toughest people that currently exist in our world today. They are emotionally tough and they are physically tough.
See, I think the thing that we're getting tripped up on, Gen X is getting tripped up on, is that like, okay, we understand there's been a lot of adversity, and I think an important conversation to be had here is that a lot of people in Gen X, and especially the older generations, equate adversity and the treatment that they've received throughout their life with this notion of strength and backbone and gumption, if you will, that everyone should also have to go through as like a prerequisite for being a human in society. And if not, these people are considered weak. And here's my 2 cents on this, because I've seen this argument being brought up so many times in different contexts. I am not here to discredit any of the adversity that people have gone through in their past or diminish or downplay any of the real trauma that these people have gone through. And I also think that there is some really great merit in going through and learning from adversity. But the issue is often that like there's this notion of like not wanting better for people. Like I understand and empathize with life being really hard growing up, but like knowing all that you've been through and understanding how hard, challenging, and honestly traumatizing that was for you, why would you want other people to also go through that? And I think a reason behind this is because a lot of Gen Xers are not aware that a lot of the stuff that they went through was trauma, was like genuine trauma, because oftentimes the older generations will just walk up to you and tell you something that was extremely traumatic and will just say it really matter of factly like it doesn't affect them at all. Like when I was growing up, my parents forgot that I existed and I had to fend for myself for weeks at a time, fighting off coyotes, rabies, and chicken pox just to make it to school every day. Like, first off, I am sorry because that is awful and traumatizing. 2, yes, that is a testament to your strength. But 3, I don't know how you can claim that that has unaffected you when a lot of these same people are walking around with unhealed trauma and consistently going ahead and projecting it onto others. Like, yes, you survived and endured that and you may think that you're fine, but knowing how traumatizing that was, why would you want that for your kids or for other people in the world to go through as well? Because you now currently walk around emotionally damaged, are avoided and almost comically opposed to things that you don't understand. Like, a lot of y'all are actually victims of your past, and although I know that Gen X does not like the victim complex or like feeling like a victim and wants to lead with like strength and like more self-agency, I understand that, but also like maybe speak to someone about this and unpack some of the generational curses that have been passed down to you and that you have passed down to others, so that you don't feel like you're constantly on the defense, having to be proving yourself or bringing up your trauma as a badge of honor. Because I'll tell you something, when it comes to like projection and making outbursts and having like emotional dysregulation, you never really see a Gen Z here, and very rarely a millennial, being the ones to be making scenes with service workers or the majority population of people that would be categorized as Karens. It usually is the people that are of the Gen X, Boomer generations that are those people that you find online and are the people that are like the least patient, have the least filter, and are generally seemingly mad at the world. And I feel like a lot of that is due to a buildup of frustration and anger that has not yet been resolved. And honestly, I think that I'm overstepping a little bit because this ain't my business, and it really isn't Gen Z's business, but because it was brought to our attention that we're here.
Oh, hey, bro. What's going on with Gen X? They poked the wrong bear this time.
Oh, that?
Gen X, it's time to rise up.
Yeah, I think they're trying to go to war with Gen Z. I don't know. No one really knows.
We ride a dog.
What? What did we do?
You think we're scared of you, Gen Z? We drank from the hose growing up.
Like, I feel like there's this notion that like people are coming for Gen X and that Gen X needs to defend itself, at least in the context of this random beef. No one is coming for you. No, at least Gen Z is not coming for you. And we do have some issues with you, but like none that we're actively forming a beef over. And that brings me to my next topic of talking about emotions as a form of weakness. A common talking point that I see, especially online when it comes to when Gen X comes at Gen Z, is that Gen Z is too sensitive. We talk about our feelings too much, and we are quick to cancel anyone that doesn't make us feel good. And there is some validity to that, I will say. But also, I think that we're just generally more vocal and open and honest about our emotions, just generally, than past generations, as a response to seeing what the opposite has done to the other generations. And even then, because I feel like a common thing for past generations was to like not talk about your feelings and was to just bottle everything in and keep things to yourself and just keep your head down, grit your teeth and bear everything that came with you, and let your success, let your life speak for itself. And we've seen how the culmination of that has impacted people's lives. And like, again, I mean this with like the most respect. If anyone is talking about getting emotional or is sensitive, I feel like that it definitely includes the people that constantly have to remind others of the traumatic things that happened in their childhood and in their lives in general, as well as people that seem to have public outbursts when they don't get what they want in a service setting. But I don't know. I think that everyone is uniquely emotional and sensitive. It's just the way that it is expressed that is a little different. And I don't think that it's weak or embarrassing or less than to show emotion other than anger or happiness. You know, like there are a wide spectrum of emotions that can be expressed and should be expressed as a response to things going on in our lives. And again, I really want to incentivize therapy, like truly, because there is a lot to unpack. Like honestly, if we want to talk about the Gen X rise, I'm going to bring this real personal, I'm going to bring this real close to home. And I'm sorry, Mom, for bringing you into this, because the way that I texted my mom, a member of Gen X, whether she knew what the Gen X rise was, she did not. She is not a chronically online girly. But once I told her what it was, why'd she go, we're the better generation and we are not to be effed with? And after just hearing very brief descriptions of what the Gen X rise was, she declared herself a member of the Gen X rise. Like that, spooky down. Like this is just in jest. Like Gen X started this beef and want to claim that they're built different so bad. And to that I say, yes. You are correct. Built very different. I don't know where they do that because they don't do none of that around here. Next thing I want to talk about was a sort of mini thing that happened a little earlier where I think some of the seeds of this whole Gen X versus Gen Z really started kicking off. And honestly, this might involve some of the millennials just a little bit. I know that I love them, but also like not really, because I don't think that there should be a beef between Gen Z and millennials for sure. For some reason, everyone is convinced that Gen Z is trying to cancel Eminem. I don't know what it is with these one-sided beefs. I really don't know why we have to be fighting for our lives for something that we are just generally not involved in. Like, this is just blatant misinformation. Who is canceling who? Who is beefing with who? Like, literally, who is saying these things? Like, seriously, for some reason, older generations are convinced that that Gen Z is shaking in their boots and has this long-standing vendetta against Eminem, and that we are actively trying to cancel him any chance that we get. And even Eminem believes that this is the case as well, because apparently in his music, he is talking about, oh, Gen Z is gonna cancel me. Gen Z tries to cancel me. And then, like, Gen Z isn't really thinking about you like that. Like, the most that Gen Z has done in this beef, one-sided beef, is mock Eminem. We've mocked Eminem like Gen Z does for any and everything unserious. We mock everything. Gen Z mocks Eminem for doing the same thing that Gen X has done in the whole, like, oh, Gen Z is coming for us. Gen Z is mocking. Gen Z is trying to cancel me. But what we're mocking him for is saying some outlandish things. Like, I feel like Gen Z's gotten to the point where we're kind of like over rage baiting. We're over people being like, oh, we just can't say anything anymore, because, like, no, you can say a lot of things. It's just like all the things that you happen to want to say are problematic or mildly homophobic and racist. Like, there is a wide range of conversation topics. There are a wide range of jokes, lyrics that you can say. It just happens to be that every single one that you want to say, for some reason, happens to be a slur at the expense of a marginalized community. Like, can we talk about that? Can we wake that up? Because what do you mean you can't talk about anything? And that is kind of what has gone on with Eminem. Because for one, earlier he talked about Megan Thee Stallion. And you know that Gen Z loves Megan Thee Stallion, which, okay, weird, but I'll just chalk that up to just generally male rappers being weird when it comes to Megan for whatever reason. Recently, when his album came out, his album and his song did very well. So I don't understand where, like, the canceling allegations are coming from. But in one song in his album, he says, my transgender cat's Siamese, identifies as black but acts Chinese. Like, what would compel you to say that? Like, why would you say that? Like, it just gives blatant rage bait, which already is cringe, but also is typical for that part of the internet to try and be a gotcha for Gen Z, being like, oh, see, you were offended. We knew it. We knew it. We can't say anything. Y'all just take offense to everything. Y'all are too sensitive. Like, I just said this one little thing. Now I've ended Gen Z. I've triggered Gen Z. Like, no, y'all are just trying to say stuff to get a reaction. Like, no one actually cares. We don't care that you said what you said. We're just mocking you because you look dumb. Out of all things to say, why would you say things like that? Like, apparently the lore gets deeper into the Eminem album. I'm not personally an Eminem fan, so I haven't really listened to it. And this is not me being like, oh, I'm canceling Eminem. I don't mess with Eminem. Like, I just am not an Eminem stan. I know people that are part of Gen Z that are, but like it just gives, you want to be the underdog so bad. Like, you want to go through these struggles so bad, but don't want to be the victim. Like, what's that about? I don't know. There was no real strong tie-in between that and the main purpose of this video. I just want to talk about that because it just seems that everyone wants Gen Z's attention for some reason. I don't know. Like, I think we need to normalize just leaving each other alone, because at the end of the day, I don't think we were really thinking about them. They honestly weren't thinking about us. They were just agents of chaos that are causing this one-sided beef to continue. And you may argue, Rumi, you were talking about it, so maybe it's not as one-sided as you think. And to that, I say, maybe you're right. I'm kidding. But to wrap up this video, I just really wanted to pose a question. What exactly is the point of all this? What is the end goal? And, like, what do they want from us? Like, we understand that there needs to be some healing, there needs to be some therapy, there needs to be a lot of things that need to take place, but like, what actually is the intention behind the Gen X rise? Like, I want to bring it back to the whole point of, like, no one was really coming for them like that. No one was really thinking about them like that. It just really seems very loud from that side of the internet. That's just really my question. Like, what the resolution? Like, what was the intention? What were the key takeaways from this beef? Because it doesn't really seem like anyone knows what they want. I guess I could think of anything it'd be to, like, leave us alone, but like, okay, we kind of did. Like, I don't know. Like, it just seems like a really random hill to die on. And the Gen Z response has just been so funny. Like, looking at the comment section of these videos is pure comedy. Should we read through some of them? I think we should. Someone says, Gen X rise slowly from the couch. Gen X versus Facebook password. Gen X versus slide to unlock. This one goes, Gen X versus hallucinations. And the original poster, which is a Gen Xer, says, more like flashbacks. Like, really, truly, all jokes aside, I really think, and I've thought, and I've said this for a very long time, there's a very large portion of older generations that are genuinely traumatized and have really dark things to work through. And the way that they just bring these very traumatic things up as badges of honor is alarming. Like, I really think that a lot of these people should be receiving help and should be talking about these things with professionals that can help them get through this, because it is not okay to be living like this. And this is not me coming on here to like reprimand saying like you shouldn't be living like this, but like from an empathy standpoint, like I genuinely empathize. Like, I don't think that you should walk through life carrying all this baggage to yourself. Like, honestly, I mean this sincerely. Like, I think that Gen X should hold more compassion for themselves and get the help that they need. Like, talk to somebody, work through these things, because they're actually genuinely traumatic. Like listen to a Gen X talk about their childhood for like 5 minutes. You'll understand, like, this is not okay. They are genuinely struggling. They genuinely have trauma, unhealed trauma, and I want the best for them. I truly do. Like, all jokes aside, I want the best for Gen X. Like, I want y'all to not have to live with flashbacks, to not have to live with trauma. I want y'all to be happy because, you know, like, you made it this far in life carrying all that. Like, imagine what the rest of the years you got would be without all that baggage. I don't know. But that's all I have to say on this. Is there a beef? No. Is there a funny TikTok discourse between the Gen X rise and Gen Z? I wouldn't call it a beef. I'd call it a clash between frustration and just genuine confusion. But anyways, the Gen X rise, more like Gen X go to therapy. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, then definitely subscribe, leave a like, follow me on my socials at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Be sure to click the link in my description, as well as using code EmergencyJewel10 to get 10 free meals and free appetizers for life from HelloFresh. But other than that, y'all, I've been Emergency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.